Hey, friends. Thanks for joining me for another episode of Soaring Eagle TV. We have transitioned to video only. My guest today is my dear friend, Patrick Wood. Patrick, thank you for joining me today.
My pleasure. Good to be with you.
Our friendship goes back, way back. I was trying to remember when we first met one another and had our first phone call.
I know.
And it was, I'm going to say it was almost 20 years ago. So that's been a while.
We both were younger men.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So I'm reminded of that when I say, hey, we've transitioned to video, because Patrick and I have probably chatted, folks, 3 or 4 or 5 times over the years, but it's all been audio on Soaring Eagle Radio. Now, Soaring Eagle TV, you get to look at these handsome beards, right? We were laughing about that before we went on the air. But Patrick, I when people ask me about technocracy, technology, AI, transhumanism, the first thing that I do is I say, well, do you know Patrick Wood? Are you familiar with his work? Do you have any of the books that he has put out? And I was just showing Patrick one that's in my library, and this Trilaterals over Washington. This was an eye opener when I first came across this, and I thought, are you serious? This is going on right under our noses. And of course, since then, Patrick, you've put out 6 or 8 books, and I want to tell people about your website. That's the one thing I wanted to get out. Technocracy News, technocracy.news. You definitely want to subscribe to Patrick's website. He posts articles, daily, information that's really going to open your eyes to what's going on today. So Patrick, just in case there's somebody that's joined us today, and they're not familiar with technocracy, hard to believe there's probably some people out there, but if anybody's joined us today, they're not familiar with that. Walk us through what that is and a brief history. And I know you've answered this a million times on interviews, but some people need to get up to speed on what this is.
They really do. And by their own definition, the technocracy was started in 1932 at Columbia University. That's a big deal, just right there. It wasn't just a bunch of idiots in the back room somewhere talking about economic theory. This was Columbia University, for Pete's sake. That was a seat of progressivism in the 1930s. So they thought that they could create a new economic system because the economy was tanking back then, and they blamed the politicians. They hated politicians, and so they thought we can do better. This is what they said. So they came up with a system called technocracy, based on resource management and allocation. It was based on energy. For another thing, they wanted to get rid of the price-based economic system altogether. They wanted to get rid of the political system altogether. They wanted to get rid of the monetary system altogether. And what's left? Well, it's basically them telling us what to do.
Yes,
with our lives. So it was crazy. And at that point in time, enough people believed it that they had a movement, and it blossomed. They had over 500,000 people across the country paying dues to them to attend meetings and learn about technocracy, how it would work. In Canada, it was a huge sensation in Canada. Mm-hmm. And at one point, the movement got banned in Canada because they thought they looked too much like Nazis in Nazi Germany. And they just said, we don't like you, so you're out of here.
For sure.
Interestingly, the guy that headed the movement in Canada was none other than a guy by the name of Dr. Joshua Haldeman. Just happens to be Elon Musk's grandfather. Go figure.
Pure coincidence, Patrick.
It's purely, I know, it's purely nothing to do with the story. It's just interesting trivia. Yeah. Go figure.
Yeah.
That means Elon Musk grew up in a home that was steeped with technocracy.
Yes.
And let me just give one qualifier here. This is not about technology at all. This is about an ideology, a crazy ideology put forth by these people. We see them as the tech bros in Washington, D.C. right now, but we saw it in the United Nations Agenda 21. We saw the birth of sustainable development, same stuff.
Yes.
We saw that in the birth of the Trilateral Commission in 1973 and going back all the way to the 1932. It's the same ideology, just recast along the way, made more beautiful or whatever, to be acceptable. But America totally rejected them by the end of the 1940s. And that's important to notice as well, because somebody wised up. We don't want this stuff. Whatever those people are smoking, we don't want any part of it.
Right. Yeah.
And they said, "You're out of here, dudes." Yeah. But then it was reborn in 1973, as I said, with the Trilateral Commission.
I remember a conversation we had many, many years ago now. Well, at least 10 or 12. I don't think many more years than that. But you were talking about the push to make energy a central part, and that coincided. So when you were talking about that, then I started seeing Al Gore talk about climate change and how we had to invest in this, and it was like they were running in parallel, but they wanted to shift us away from, as you said, a money-based to an energy-based, or even is it accurate to call it tokenization?
This is probably the currency of energy now today, especially with all the energy that's the tokenization are consuming, basically eating the world at this point, at least in our country.
Yes.
Energy's risen to the top of the discussion all over the place, and this has been the case for over 30 years at this point. It was raised in Agenda 21 with the war on fossil fuels. Altogether, we had to get rid of all the fossil fuels because they're hurting the climate, et cetera, et cetera. So we have to have all this alternative energy. We have to have windmills and solar panels, that sort of stuff. That was absolute nonsense, and that was all made up. There was no substance at all to that narrative that was pushed, but it was a direct attack on the fossil fuels that we have been given on planet Earth to make civilization move forward. And it was unmistakable all along. It's all about energy. Now, even we see the war in Iran was all about the Strait of Hormuz and all the energy distribution around the world. And alliances are changing, and the building blocks of globalization is changing. And who would have thought that China, of all nations on Earth, they would be buying oil from the U.S. of A. And the Gulf states right now in Louisiana and Texas, they're loading their tankers with American oil. Who would have thought? I mean, this is so crazy. So, the alliance has been split so much, where China has to have energy, and all of a sudden the United States rides to the rescue and offers China to buy our oil.
Say what you want about President Trump, and there is plenty to say, believe me. He's, in my view, and I don't want to make anybody mad that's joined us today, I'm thankful for him versus the alternative that we might have had. But listen, President Trump is a master at playing this game, and he's up to his eyeballs in exactly what we're talking about, Patrick. I know this is not news to you.
Yeah, let me separate the discussion here a little bit. There's political Trump, and then there's economic or business Trump.
Good point.
There's two different personalities. Where he's not a split personality. He's not schizophrenic or anything.
Yeah.
But there's the political Trump. This is the guy that we look through political lens to see what has he done politically for us. He's done some good things along the way. Obviously, he has.
Absolutely.
But the economic Trump is another issue altogether. This is the dark side of the force at this point. What he's doing overseas with, how he's building up the Mid East, and well, we'll talk about it along the way. I'm sure.
Yeah. That's. I just shake my head at some of the things that he proposes and insists that they're going to happen. And let me just say this before we get back into your wheelhouse, Patrick. Because I found myself saying this to a lot of people recently, not just the fellowship here in Lima, but a lot of people that I've talked with, been on their platforms. It is a fool's errand, in my opinion, to believe that you're going to negotiate any kind of an agreement with the Iranian regime that really has any staying power. I mean, they'll tell you all sorts of things, but you can't trust it. You can't believe them. And the reason for that is they have a particular theology, a particular eschatology that says that they're on the right path and that their behavior and their actions are in line with Allah's decrees for them to bring about the return of the Mahdi, or the 12th Imam. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but I just shake my head every time there's a news flash about making progress. And it's like, you're not making progress, folks. You're not.
Let me tell you, all the nations in the Middle East hate Iran for that reason alone. They all just detest them. If they could just wave a wand and get rid of them, they would. Yeah. But they can't. They're letting the United States and Israel pursue the war against Iran, and you can see where they're like chomping at the bit to launch their own planes and strike forces against Iran. I think they would if they got the green light from the United States. But you can see the hatred that these nations of the Middle East just hated. They don't want Iran anywhere. This kind of gives you the idea maybe Iran just going to be bombed out of existence at some point, and the current regime will change and away with them.
Yeah,
that's the only way at this point to get rid of it. And I don't think the ideology won't go away just because they change the regime.
Yeah. Well, and I agree with that wholeheartedly, Patrick, because the prophetic scriptures, especially the book of Ezekiel, names them as a nation that will come against Israel in the end time. So whatever happens now, that's not the final story, because they're going to be a part of this coalition. But anyway, that's just a tangent off of this. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, and I wholeheartedly agree with you. Now, I read a quote in I think it was this book. Yeah. So, hey, listen, folks, if you haven't got these books yet from Patrick, please go to Technocracy.news. Technocracy.news. They're in the store. And let me just say this, and then I want to share this quote, because I thought, yep, that's it right there in a nutshell. If you want to summarize what's happening in our world today, this is it. But let me say this: Patrick's going to be joining me and a couple of my colleagues, Dr. Michael Lake, Dr. Corby Shuey, on our Kingdom War Room podcast in a couple of weeks. We'll be taping that towards the middle of June, and that'll be released then that week. But we're going to be talking about on that show, Patrick, we're going to be talking about your newest that I got in Kindle version, the economics of technocracy. Now you talk about some valuable information. That book, and I think those books are available now, aren't they, Patrick?
They are, and they're also available in audiobooks as well.
There you have it,
Some
folks.
people are reporting to me, if you have a Kindle device, one of Amazon's readers, you can order the Kindle version and the audiobook version. They sync up together.
Oh.
So you can listen to the audio along with reading the book. That's really cool, in my opinion. I like that idea.
Wow. That's neat. That's very cool. So this quote, and this is from the evil twins of technocracy and transhumanism, and it's right on the title page. It says, "Technocracy is transforming the world. Transhumanism is transforming people who will live there." I thought that was the most succinct statement I've ever heard or read, Patrick, that shows how those two movements fit together like hand and glove.
Absolutely. This is exactly what Klaus Schwab talks about at the World Economic Forum, and all of his henchmen there as well. They talk about this concept of the fourth industrial revolution. It's not just going to change the way we live, it's going to change you.
Yes.
That's exactly what they say. The Great Reset they talk about, that's the economic system. But the fourth industrial revolution is designed to change you as individuals, merge you with technology, and somehow usher you into the new Great Reset world. And this is so preposterous on the face of it. These people have this ego trip that we're the ones who destroyed the old world in the first place. They blame us for all their troubles. So when they're going to reset the world, they have to conclude, well, we don't want the old people there. It's like putting old new wine into new old wineskins, right? So we have to have a new people, and we're going to create this new humanity through technology, et cetera, the transhumanism, to make them suitable to live in our new world. This is the exact idea that they have, and I tell you what, it just makes me. It fries my bacon, so to speak, when they even suggest that. How egotistical can you be?
Yeah. Well, a name you're very familiar with, and probably many of the folks that have joined us today for this conversation, Patrick, Yuval Noah Harari has been telling anybody that'll listen that that's what's coming. That's what's coming. We need a humanity 2.0. We need and along with that, by the way, friends, along with that, he says we need a new world religion, a religion that's going to unite us all. He has stated that very, very plainly. He has said that Christianity is outdated and needs to go, and along with Judaism and all of the primary world religions of today. He is looking for a technological or religion of technocracy where this is beyond just scientism, isn't it, Patrick?
And this is the creation of AI God.
Yes.
Essentially. And this is apparently this has been revealed just recently not by me necessarily, but other journalists, that one of the pursuits of these leaders of the major technology or AI companies today is just that, to create AI God. And what does this mean? If you create AI God and you're the owner of that God, what does that mean for the rest of humanity? I think we're in big trouble if they do that.
Yeah. Well, so there has to be some type of enforcement mechanism for that to really gain any traction. And I think we're getting set up to where the world governments are going to freely give that. And of course, with that, then refusal is what? Punishment, up to and including
death.
Death.
Probably, I know.
Yeah.
This is so clearly the beast system that's being erected right now.
Yes.
Not saying it's here, but you can see the building blocks being moved around. Whether it's digital ID, whether it's merging with transhumanism ideas, wanting to conquer death, and the desire for these oligarchs to go into space. They're saying, well, we have to conquer the cosmos with a conscious AI. Give me a break. This is the modern day construction of the Tower of Babel. We don't need no stinking bricks.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Space
I agree with
ships,
that,
for
Patrick.
Pete's sake.
Yeah.
So, this is just in your face for Christians who should be aware. Many Christians aren't aware of what's going on, but they should be aware of what's going on right now before their eyes is the rebuilding of the Tower of Babel.
Yeah.
And all these people are on board. You can't find any tech bros in Washington, D.C. right now that are not on board with this whole agenda. It's very disturbing. Yeah. Well, having said that, I'll just say my trailer, okay? If you put your hope in the world, you're going to be disappointed. If you put your hope in Christ, you'll never be disappointed.
That's right.
So all those people who are straddling the fence right now, they have one foot in the kingdom. That's great if you do. The other foot is in the world. They're hoping that something will work out in the world to their favor. Maybe they'll get $1 million. Maybe they'll get kids or whatever you're looking for in the world. You'll be sorely disappointed in the end because the world is going to wear in a handbasket on an express train.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. On an express train. So it's interesting what you just observed. I agree with you 100%. I just made those very same comments last Lord's Day during my sermon. I'm teaching through Acts 14, and there's a passage there. There's a verse in verse 14 about the folks that disagreed with Paul and Barnabas and the missionary team and what they were teaching, proclaiming Christ through the scriptures in the synagogue, and that stirred up some folks, and they had convinced their ruler. So the rulers, along with these dissenting voices, came against Paul and Barnabas and had intended to stone them, as the narrative goes. And I pointed that out. I said, that we're on the precipice of the day when the government is going to be behind persecution of Christians. Now, we know that some elements within our government are already persecuted. They're already doing that. I understand that. But the point I made is, when you look around today in America, we see that this system that we call the beast system is being constructed right before our very eyes. And I pointed out a couple of Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, and the attacks on all of these things. And I made this point: the man of lawlessness, the when he arrives, he's not arriving to build the system. He's going to step into ownership and management of a system that's already constructed. And I like your reference to the Tower of Babel. It's worshiping false gods, but it's controlling the people through this false worship and through false identification. That sounds a lot like technocracy and transhumanism to me.
It sure does. Exactly. This is the name of the game for them.
Yeah, for sure. So you mentioned, let's visit this for just a moment, because you mentioned his name just in passing, Elon Musk. So what was DOGE really all about? The Department of Government Efficiency, because we received all these revelations about mismanagement of taxpayer money, billions and billions and billions, and yet doesn't seem to have made any significant difference anywhere that I can see. And I don't know if those spigots have been shut off or not. So is this part of the deception, part of the distraction? What was all of that?
That's absolutely crazy. when Elon Musk went on stage in October, I think it was, with a rally with President Trump, was sued to be President Trump, and he put on a hat that said MAGA on it, but the hat was black, a black hat, a black MAGA hat. And he proclaimed openly, proudly, that he's not just dark MAGA, but he's also dark Gothic MAGA at the same time.
Wow.
Everybody else is wearing a red hat. He was wearing a black hat. What was that all about? And nobody questioned him at that point. Oh, Elon's going to save the day. Yay, Elon. And he gave a lot of money to Trump, by the way. Probably put him over the top to win the presidency in the first place. But when Elon came to Washington, D.C. under the auspices of DOGE, that's the Department of Government Efficiency, he came not as the head of DOGE, but only as a presidential advisor, unpaid, I might add. That's the only title he had when he went to Washington, D.C., just an unofficial advisor to the President of the United States. He had no authority to do anything. But as it turns out, there wasn't a head of DOGE. Her name, we found out, was Amy Gleason. And she had been kicking around the government for a time, but she was the official head of DOGE. What happened, however, between Elon Musk and Peter Thiel, they submitted the names of people who would work in DOGE to be sent out to all the administration or the agencies, if you will, around Washington, D.C., to infiltrate or take over those agencies with the purpose of bringing the data in those agencies to the cloud. We saw signs, for instance, that there's a huge fight in the IRS, for instance, when these people they just marched in like the Gestapo, said, "Give us your keys to the data." They said, "Heck no, we're not going to give you the keys to the data." Yep. So there was a big fight, and the courts intervened immediately, and the people that were there in the first place who guarded the data, they got removed very quickly. They were part of the first purge, if you will, of employees from Washington, D.C. Anybody that stood in the way of DOGE was accessed immediately. What happened was, however, that all of these agencies collectively gave up the keys to their data, and it was all shipped into the cloud. Wow. Then Palantir, that master spy organization that's plaguing everybody in the world at this point, Palantir was awarded a contract to shepherd all that data under one roof. This has never happened in the history of our country. And as I have a background in data science, so I understand that, why would you want to silo data? They talk about silo data. Oh, that's the worst thing you can do. You have to, you don't want to have silos of data. Well, I'll tell you what, there's a good reason that they do that.
That's right.
You don't want anybody else to pry into your tax records, for instance. That's just off limits. It's always been off limits for anybody outside of the IRS. So the silos of data have been an important institution in the United States government forever. Elon Musk came in and totally broke it apart. Now all of a sudden the silos are not there, and they're constantly pushing data from their agencies into the cloud to be managed by AI. On the other hand, there was a big push to fire people during the first days of DOGE. I think they ended up something like 175,000 members of the civil service got fired, or maybe they took early leave. They're pushed out. In any case.
Yes.
Two things happened. One, their functions were absorbed by AI. Pure and simple. They could fire the people, but they had to retain the functions. So the AI was offered as a solution to maintain those functions. Secondly, this retiring of government employees, this was part of the Dark Enlightenment. Here's the Dark MAGA coming back. The Dark Enlightenment, one of their doctrines or credos, whatever, was a thing called RAGE, rage, retire all government employees. This is a thing. It was in writing. It was anybody could have looked for it, and they would have found it. Rage was the principle that Elon Musk fired all these people, replace all government employees, and replace them with what? Automation, yes. AI. So all of a sudden, our government has been run over run into, I don't know how you say it, but it's being merged with AI even as we speak. It's all over the federal government at this point. And so that was a twofold purpose. One, to retire all these government employees, put AI in their place to replace the functions, and then to move all the data and the federal government into the cloud so it can be managed as one contiguous database. Why would they want to do that in the first place? Why would anybody want to conceive that that's a good thing to put all the data together and make a profile on every single American and tie all their social media to it and all their purchases and all that stuff to one contiguous profile? Who would want to do that?
Except I'm hoping you're going to tell us.
Nobody but the devil would think about that. But this was one of the original tenets of historic technocracy. They only had seven requirements to make technocracy real. One of them was to build a portfolio on every American with all their information, profile information, the consumer information, everything they made, everything they consumed, etc. And this has been around as a doctrine since 1932. I'm sorry, this is old school stuff.
Yeah,
but they're springing on us right now, and so when the Dark Enlightenment came to light, this is what made us want to write this book, The Final Betrayal. Hopefully, this will display on the screen. Probably won't. Oh, it does. Fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Fantastic. Yeah.
This is why we were so hot to write this book, The Final Betrayal, because I've never in my life seen such a bum's rush to take over Washington, D.C. In fact, it reminded me of 1976 when Jimmy Carter came to presidency. Mm-hmm. And he was a member of the Trilateral Commission. So was his Vice President Mondale. Mm-hmm. And Zbigniew Brzezinski came in as the first national security advisor. And then together they appointed all the members of the Trilateral Commission to cabinet posts and high-paying or the high captains of industry, like USTR, U.S. trade representative positions, presidents of World Bank, et cetera. They were all members of the Trilateral Commission. So I've never seen a clean sweep of Washington, D.C. other than 1976 to 80. Now then they kind of went underground for a while. The Trilateral Commission did for years. Now all of a sudden we see this groundswell of arch technocrats coming into Washington, D.C. to take over our government altogether for the sake of technocracy, not for the sake of our political machine, but for the sake of technocracy. And the Dark Enlightenment, when you analyze it, what it was, what it is today, it's so evil. This is causing people like Peter Thiel to say that, well, the guy that created the Dark Enlightenment, he's like my house philosopher. Really? I don't know who has a house philosopher But okay, I grant it. I get it. You like this guy, whatever he's saying, you like him. So when we analyze what the Dark Enlightenment meant, number one, they wanted to get rid of the presidency altogether. They wanted to create a monarchy and make basically somebody a king. And that person was chosen to be at that point was President Trump was a guy that the CEO type would take over the country. Then they wanted to dismiss the politicians as well, and so the same theory ideology going back to 1934. So then they said, well, we're going to create a technate, or they called it a sovereign corporation, SovCorp. And we'll have a sovereign corporation, and all the assets of society will be turned over to us. Really? Just, we're going to turn over the property of the whole system to you to manage on our behalf? Yeah, that's exactly what they said. So this wasn't just a question of broken promises at this point. The Dark Enlightenment was so flat evil that you can't express it in words. This is why we wrote The Final Betrayal, because I think this will be the final betrayal, really. There's nowhere, how can you go beyond this? When they marched into Washington, D.C. with all this agenda, had nothing to do with making America great again. Nothing to do with that at all. Nothing.
Well, you're really rocking the boat for some people, Patrick, there.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to.
Well, no, it's the truth. I mean, so in The Final Betrayal, you've got right down here, and I noticed past tense here, how technocracy destroyed America.
That's right.
Past tense. How it's already happened.
This was their intent all along, was to destroy the fabric of America. And they've done it through economic transformation. Now it's spilled over into the political world because it has to. It's not that they want political power. That's not really what they're into. But the fact that they now can be in charge of the economic engine of the world, this is what excites them.
Yes.
This was always what it was about. When we debate, Anthony Sutton and myself debated members of the Trilateral Commission in the 80s and late 70s, they told us flatly, we don't care about politics. We thought, are you people crazy? What do you mean you don't care about politics? You just took over the government, for peace sake. How can you say you're not, we went round and round with them, but I understand later they were telling the truth. They didn't care about politics. What one iota. All they wanted to do was get their hands on the economic engine of the world so that they can create their new international economic order. And this has always been the plan all the way along. You can see it step by step by step to get their hands on the entire global economy, if they can, to transfer all of the assets of the world into their hands. The Dark Enlightenment was just an expression of that plan.
And what you just described, Patrick, is one of the answers to the question, how in the world do our politicians on both sides of the aisle, it doesn't matter what letters behind their name, how in the world do they go to Washington and end up multimillionaires in a matter of just a few years, and in some people months? Well, Patrick just explained to you, listen, technocrats don't need politicians. They'll just pay them whatever to vote the agenda in. And that's exactly what's going on. Now, I want to go back to something, unless you have a comment on what I just said, Patrick.
No.
So I want to go back to this rush to seize all information, all data. What's the connection between that plan that's on overdrive right now and is very successful? What's the connection between that and the thousands, literally, of data centers that are popping up everywhere? We've got one going in about 10 miles to the west of us. We've got several going in down north of Columbus. I mean, they're going one south of us about 20. They're going it used to be solar farms. Now it's data centers. What's the danger?
Wow. Arizona, by the way, is number 7 in the country right now for data center population.
Wow.
We live in the desert, for Pete's sake. We don't have any water. We're shy on energy as well, and they want to build data centers. They don't care. They obviously don't care about the people or the resources they consume. This is not about environmental safety, if you will.
Yes, right.
So they've shattered everything along the way about the environment. The Agenda 21, 2030 agenda, that's so old school for these people at this point. They've jettisoned the whole thing in favor of creating these data centers. And at this point, we're so lopsided in the world. We have 5,000 data centers. China only has 375. You think we're in a race with China? I don't think so. Not really. China has a lot of energy for sure, but they can't. They have not built the data centers that we have, and we're overgrown with data centers in our country. What's the point? What's the point of all these data centers? I'll maintain it's to control society altogether.
Yep.
When you talk about, for instance, the New York Stock Exchange is under instructions from its owner, a company called ICE. I don't know what that stands for. It's ICE, not that ICE, but ICE.
Right.
They say they want to tokenize the whole world, all the stock exchanges of the world. Well, it just so happens that the New York Stock Exchange has about 20 plus $trillion of assets. It's all going to be tokenized. Who's going to manage? Where do you put all that data? All the fractional shares that are being created in token form, and all the associated blockchain information with it, because everyone has to have a transaction record accompanied, and maybe a smart contract as well. Well, where does all that data get stored? Do the math. If we don't have the infrastructure, or if they don't have the infrastructure to do this, their plans will not succeed. This is why this is a level of control. This has nothing to do with people finding companionship or using for research or even Bible studies. That's not the thing at all. It's about the control of society altogether. It's about the Internet of Things, the Internet of everything, all the financial transactions in the world. And now, increasingly, all the assets, the real world assets that are being tokenized all around the world. They're talking about tokenizing the United States, all the property in the United States, that 682 million acres that the United States owns right now. That's up for tokenization as well. Well, that would be a boon for somebody. I'm not sure it won't help us, but when they talk about taking this massive amount of data, you should be able to understand why they need all these data centers.
Yeah, it's mind blowing, the scope of it, Patrick.
It is.
When you pause to think that there are people who they are devoting their lives, they're devoting their financial resources. And we're talking people that are quite wealthy, but they're devoting all of that for this end, that they can have a world that is controllable, that is able to, and let's put this in terms, you talk about, I smiled when you said Agenda 21, Agenda 20, that's so, blasé. They don't care about that stuff. They're on to new things. Do you remember, it wasn't that long ago when everybody was up in arms about smart meters and smart cities and all of these kinds of things. And, oh, what's this foretell? And what does this bring? Listen, they're so far past that now. But it's all about control.
Yes.
So
let me, I have to throw in kind of a truism here. Technocracy moves on infrastructure. When I say it moves on infrastructure, smart meters were part of that infrastructure.
Okay.
The Internet of Things is part of that infrastructure. all the surveillance cameras and all the flock, license plate readers and all that stuff. That's part of the infrastructure of technocracy. Technocracy moves on the rails of infrastructure. It always has and always will. So whenever you see infrastructure being implemented somewhere or built somewhere, you can bet at this point, at least, the technocrats are behind it. And they intend to use that infrastructure to make it impossible for anybody else to exist outside that infrastructure. That makes kind of sense.
Yeah, it absolutely does. That's a good way to frame it, Patrick. Thank you for presenting that that picture. So we see our neighbors to the north, full-fledged. I don't even know what I would call it anymore. It's not simply. Some people here in America say, "Oh, they've been captured by the Chinese communists." No, it's much more sinister than that. Are they following? And the way they went about installing Carney, because it wasn't really an election, are they following the technocratic blueprint for conquering a nation? Is Canada following that, in your opinion?
Totally. Carney, first off, is a member of the Trilateral Commission. That says volumes to me.
Yeah.
So is Keir Starmer in the UK. Okay, well he's embattled up there right now, but so these people say, well, you were so all wet on the Trilateral Commission. Give me a break. These people can't do blah 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 whatever. Yet these people keep showing up in positions of power when you least expected it. Boom, there they are. They're in your face. Well, what is Mark Carney doing in Canada, for peace sake? He doesn't belong there in the first place. He was the head of the Bank of England for years and years and years. And here he is. He shows up in Canada as a premier. Given the election, it wasn't really an election per se, but he just showed up on the scene, right?
Right. Yeah.
So now he's in charge of Canada. Really? How does this work?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned Starmer, because, of course, now he's been shown the exit door, but what he started there, it's going to continue on. Is America, in your view, even in the current state that we're in, are we still the last man standing, or is there any hope of pushing back against this?
As far as the people of our country, individual as a group, the people of our country are the last man standing. Our government is not. I mean, they're totally complicit in what's going on right now in the world. Yeah. But we have to separate ourselves from the government of the United States, for sure. What the people believe is something radically different than what the government believes at this point.
That's absolutely true.
Probably some people around the world say the same thing about their country. Probably, I think some Europeans might say it. People in Russia might say it. People in China might say it. People in South America might say it. People in Mexico might say it. You have a group of people always that somewhere along the way that get the idea, hey, our freedoms are being stripped away from us, and we don't like that. So we'll kind of be the resistance. But at this point, the people in our country aren't rising up to their abilities to do anything about it at this point.
Yeah. Now, I want to say this because I imagine that some people saying, "Oh, they're throwing their hands up. What in the world are we supposed to do?" I mean, we've just described really the beast system that's in full blown operation mode, constructing right now as we're witnessing it. Does that make Washington, D.C. and the politics of D.C., the Dems and the Republicans are, going at it, and they hate Trump and this, that. Is all or most or some merely theatrics to distract from what's happening as it's been described in this conversation?
I think so. It's not. It's 5 years ago, I would have described it just like that, theatrics. But there's something going on that you can't really describe it that way. With all the nonsense in Washington, D.C. right now, with all the confusion with a congressman, senators, the political machine itself, the spiritual dimension that's going on in Washington, D.C. right now, with all this the incursion of the NAR movement, the Reconstructionist movement, to basically take over the society to create a theocracy, that all this nonsense. All this stuff is swirling around President Trump at this point, and the Washington, D.C. in general. We've never had this. I haven't seen this level of confusion in my 50 years, honestly. I haven't. So when a Bible-based, say, conservative Christians, I don't mean conservative politically, but when a conservative, somebody who believes the Bible is just what it is. Okay, just imagine that. Why don't we just read the Bible for what it says? Okay, just forget all this nonsense. But nevertheless, for a person who has some discernment into what the Bible means, they have to look at this whole system in Washington, D.C. right now and throw up their hands. This is not from God. This is no way representative how God works at all. None of it. So what you're left, like I said before, if you have one foot in the kingdom and one foot in the world, you're going to be disappointed. That foot's going to get burned really bad, and maybe your right or left side will be burned as well. But you don't have to succumb to that, for sure. Now is the time to prepare for that time when you see when the whole thing is going to fly apart and the fangs are going to come out, and that's where you are going to shine as a Christian, to let your light shine forth amidst the total blackness of this whole situation. So this is a good thing on one hand for Christians who can understand that, take action today, but it's going to be bad for Christians who refuse that course of action, and they hang on to the things that are dear to them, whether it's their job or their possessions or their 401ks or whatever it might be that they're embedded in. Now is the time not to give those things away. I'm not saying that, but now is the time to get your hands off of those resources and not claim them as your own. If God gave them to you in the first place, praise Him that you have some resources. That's great. But don't think you're responsible for those things and you have to take care of them, hang on to them like you're going to be all tightwad and not that sort of thing. This is not where you want to be going forward. And I'm reminded kind of something that Corrie ten Boom said once upon a time. She'd been dead for years, I know, but she said she expressed the 11th commandment. I like that. This, I'm being facetious. You understand? But the 11th, to her, she was said, "Blessed are the flexible, for they shall not be broken." So being flexible is with your world's goods. Now's the time to understand how to be flexible, what that means, and put your eyes on Christ, not on the system of the world.
Amen. I couldn't have said it better, Patrick. That is exactly the message that we want to leave this audience with. Is
Amen.
If you know Christ, press into Jesus. If you know Christ, be about that business and make sure that the resources that you have are being utilized in that cause. Be the hands and feet of Christ in this day. It's okay to share this information. I love reading and researching. Patrick has been a journalist and a researcher and author for many, many years. And I appreciate people like Patrick who can bring this information to us in easily digestible bites that we can get it and understand it. It gives us an ability to see the things that are going on in our world today, in our country. It gives us a proper perspective. And I think it brings balance back, Patrick. We're not to be fearful. We're not to be frantically running around trying to figure out how we're going to preserve. Listen, the Lord Jesus said that he who tries to keep his life is going to lose it. But the one that gives it, you're going to gain what you could never get otherwise. I so appreciate you, Patrick. Thank you for joining me today. There's a lot of meat still on the bones. Maybe we'll do this again in another month or two. And folks, I would just ask you to be praying for Patrick and his bride. They are being used mightily of the Lord in this day and age. They'll be speaking in a number of different places. On Technocracy News, his website, there is a place where you can donate and support the ministry. A good way to support the ministry and get a perk is to buy his books. They're great reads, and I would encourage you to do that. So, Patrick, again, thank you so very much, brother, for joining me today. We'll have to do it again soon.
My pleasure.
Thank you. That's all we've got for you in this episode, folks. Please share this on your platforms. Send the link to your friends. Get this message out. God bless you. We'll see you next time.